Hi, and welcome to another episode of MobyPod, specifically a Moby MiniPod. And the MiniPods, which we started 2 weeks ago, are basically just short versions of the podcast. And so far, it's just me alone on the MiniPod because Lindsay and Bagel are really smart. And it's Sunday afternoon, and it is a beautiful day. Like, it's the sort of day, this is why people move to Los Angeles. It's the end of winter, but it's about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what centigrade is because I'm an ignorant American. But Lindsay and Bagel are at the beach because they are smart, and Bagel loves running around the beach more than she loves just about anything. And I am here in my studio talking to you guys, which is great. In any case, last time on the MiniPod, I talked about the album Everything Is Wrong because it is Everything Is Wrong's 30th anniversary this year. It came out March 1995, and now it is March 2025, and my math is not great, but I think that's 30 years have elapsed since it came out. So last time I talked about the strange origin of Everything Is Wrong, and today I want to talk about one of the more confusing songs on Everything Is Wrong, which is God Moving Over the Face of the Waters. So, 1995, or actually 1994, and I was working on my first album, and as I talked about last time, I wanted to put everything on it. I wanted rave songs, and I wanted ballads and speed metal songs, and I wanted classical compositions. So a lot of this eclecticism, it really confused my managers. It really confused the record labels. And the song that probably confused them the most was God Moving Over the Face of the Waters, because it's about 6 or 7 minutes long. There are no real drums, maybe some timpani, but it's a classical composition. And I remember playing it for people and for my managers, and if I could get them to listen to it, they just kind of looked at me like, people want you to make a rave record. Why are you making 6.5 minute long classical compositions? But I loved and continue to love God Moving Over the Face of the Waters more than almost anything I've ever done. So the way it came to be, this particular song, it was 1994, and I was in my studio on Mott Street late at night, probably around 3 a.m. And so the song started out with this simple arpeggio, just me sitting in my studio on Mott Street late at night, 3 a.m, playing the simple opening arpeggio. And then I syncopated it. And then I started adding these lower notes. And for the purpose of this, I'm going to play them on the piano. And it just slowly started building. And it was one of those wonderful moments when you're working on music and you have no idea what's happening. It's just like every next step sort of makes itself, or every next step introduces itself where there's almost no thought. It's just an automatic process. And so I built the chord structure underneath it. And to get into some very rudimentary music theory, the original arpeggio is in a minor key, but a minor key based on different root notes can become different chords. So I wanted to have that opening that felt kind of plaintive and melancholy, and then have the chords come in and have them be more hopeful, more optimistic. And there's a minor tension there, between the original arpeggio and the sort of the underlying chords, but it felt really nice to me. And what I did in 1995, I just kept building. I kept adding more chords and more orchestration and trying to both reinforce the chord structure, but also pull against it a little bit with some notes that probably didn't make perfect sense, but emotionally made sense to me. And then in the middle of the song, it got very, very quiet. And I broke the song down to just its most bare minimum, like the simple arpeggio and a simple violin part. And then everything came crashing back in. And when everything, if I'm going to be honest, when everything came crashing back in when I was writing this song, I started crying because I imagined God. And I don't know who or what God is, but I imagined God at the beginning of what we'll call history, 4 billion years ago, 5 billion years ago, looking at the earth and imagine at that point, as far as we know, the earth was just void. It was covered with water. There was no oxygen. There was no life. But again, I don't know who or what God is, but imagining this atemporal, omniscient being looking at the earth and in one instant understanding everything that was going to come. All of the life, 5 billion years of life or 4 billion years of life, and all of the struggle and all of the suffering. And I just imagine God being overwhelmed with the enormity of that, of what was going to happen on this barren, watery rock. So, and it's mentioned in the Bible. And again, I'm not any sort of religious type person at this point in my life, but I loved the idea of God moving over the face of the waters. So God moving over the face of the waters and just having this sense of what was about to happen over the next 4 or 5 billion years. So that's how the song was written. And that's what it originally meant to me. And it might have confused some people thinking that it was somehow a Christian song. And if you want it to be a Christian song, it can, but it's more about just that simple idea, and I don't know how else to explain it, of a divine entity, a God, this universal spirit of omniscience hovering over a lifeless rock with the understanding of what was about to happen. So now let's just listen to God moving over the face of the waters. Thank you for letting me ramble on about God moving over the face of the waters. And if you're a Christian, I hope I haven't offended you. If you're an atheist, I hope I haven't offended you. If you're agnostic, maybe this makes sense. Who knows? I think a key to a happy life in this world is to never simply argue about religion. So that's all for this Moby MiniPod. We'll be back with a nice, longer, regular pod in a week. But in the meantime, please take care of yourselves, and I'll talk to you soon.